Alrighty, so I'm gonna change my voice because this is called acting. It's a pretty old thing as far as humans go. It's been around for a long time, and usually we're doing it to understand some other type of thing to do with. I'll do it fully. I'll do it as much as I possibly can. I don't normally do it at all because I don't need to, but I will do it for the sake of this video. Mostly what we're doing when we're acting as human beings is we're trying to understand some other thing, some other part of the world. Most actors actually train by imitating animals. And so a man imitating a woman is actually one of the oldest examples of acting, of theatre. It's been around for a long time. It's probably foundational in our egalitarian societies. It's really old. It doesn't mean they want to be a woman forever, although it can. It's just part of humanity. And the same in reverse. And there are varying levels of cohesion towards this. I have makeup on, I have clothing on, and I'm adjusting my voice. This is enough for me. I don't need to go any further. Like, I'm making my point, I can feel what I need to feel. It helps me use, like nowadays they call it method, I suppose. And it's just part of humanity. It's part of humans. It's just, this is the bit that's different right now, is that if you're watching this, I'm filming myself in a place with a camera on my phone. Cameras have existed for a long time, so this has existed. And I'm sharing it onto the internet, which is new, and I'm sharing it onto a stage where there is no one. These are the phenomenon that are more interesting. Now, I'm going to branch from this into also like this is to be listened to. It's, if you think it's weird, you're supposed to think it's weird. That's part of it. That's how it works. It's always been weird. Sometimes people doing what I'm doing right now have worn masks, they've danced around, they've gone ecstatic into different things. Sometimes they've written grand pieces of writing or music or poetry or films or anything. But what I'm interested in is the rawest expression of this. And what I'm doing right now, although there has been billions of dollars spent to convince you otherwise, what I'm doing right now has been done for millions and millions and millions of years by all cultures. And it doesn't mean that I want to cut my balls off. There is lots of things going on. And I'm going to get graphic because everyone loves a bit of graphic these days, don't they? We've all been exposed to quite a lot of things in this short transition period into this paradigm. If I compare say the pornography that I saw as a young man, say 12 to 16, and I remember the reaction I had from watching that, and then I compared to what is going on now, it boggles my mind. The fact that I'm getting such a weird, strong, or everyone is, such a weird, strong reaction from doing this it's hard for me to balance out those two things. It's hard for me to realize that they're going on at the same time. Because I think this is, at its core, I think it is a gender issue. I think there is some responsibility that needs to be taken as a whole by women as to exactly who you are being led by and what we are being led to. And the best way for me to express that is by becoming feminine and showing you what you have done to us. Now, I can get out of, this isn't permanent. This isn't even like a tattoo, something else that a lot of our young people are covered in. This is temporary, this is fluid, not in the way that this pseudo-religion style concept has been piped at us and put in and installed into our schools. It is play, it is trying to understand by imitation, and it is one of the oldest things. All levels of everything, even if we go to extreme Christian religion, our current Pope Leo, comes from a sect called the Augustines, or the Augustines. This is there's lots of different religious sects in Christianity. They stemmed from a group a long time ago, far older than Sex and the City, who would live by imitating Christ. Now, I've done that as well. It's how I understand things, and I always have. When I was a child, I was fortunate enough to have a large property. It was like 20 acres of regrowth bush in the Australian bush. I was surrounded by horses. I would do things like trot like a horse and run around. I would sometimes think I was a centaur. I would think I was a pirate. I would think I was a explorer. And really the difference between, if you think I am an explorer, still both in the physical world. I think today on my memories there's some video of me exploring, and all I really did, I walked from a major road to the coast last year through a section of bush that stretches for hundreds of kilometers. There is the same pretty safe stretch of bush. If you follow some basic guidelines, anyone could do this, and they could have the experience of a lifetime in one afternoon. You will have an out-of-body experience. If you remember a simple rule, like walk, like you pick a certain time during the day and you follow the sun and you make sure that you end up walking towards the sun through the bush however you can, you will end up at the coast, and then if you turn left, you will see a lighthouse in Two Rocks, and you will be home free again, and you will have had the experience of your life. It's not perfectly safe. Nothing in the world is. You know, there's poisonous snakes, you could fall, you could get lost, but I'd say there's pretty good phone reception. We can have these experiences, but we're not. I think every young man, I think every 16-year-old should be forced to have this experience. I think, if possible, they should be not forced, but I think around 18, 19 years old, they should probably be encouraged to have a large amount of marijuana and then follow the sun to the coast from West Coast Highway. We can put a tracker on them so that if they get, a distress signal, because it's not going to be for everyone, but it's pretty good. If we lose one kid in every 10,000, I think we'll be far better off. It will give you an understanding of your environment and of your life that you will never forget, and I can guarantee that because I've done it, and I've done it since I was a child. This country here, we are occupying this country. And we have done amazing things and we have done terrible things in our occupation. But I will not sit here and allow another occupation to attempt this strategy upon us by destroying our connection and our heritage. There is a lot being said about English people. We have this culture. And I actually think some of this femininity is an expression of my dormant English culture. If I look back at the period that my family left England and where we were in that system, I see someone who nowadays, if you if you took that individual and put them in a high school in a suburban suburb of Australia, they would appear feminine, they would appear as a woman. There's a reason we were called gentlemen. It's because we had gone through a beautiful process of pacification of our horrendous nature. The reason we went through that is because we had done it. You cannot have one without the other. You will only truly know that you need to pacify your evil, or your, not evil, evil's even the wrong way to, your most horrific tendencies. And there is so much being done to say that this is an existence that, or this is a phenomenon that only occurs in my heritage, in my background. And this is false. This is in every single thing. I think the point, and this isn't a point of elevation, this is just a point to perhaps take and ponder on and maybe potentially understand at some point, that it's because we had been successful through that action that we had the time and the focus from external people and from our own people to pacify our nature. And the way that a man will do that is by feminizing himself. Now, I haven't committed the atrocities that my ancestors did. I haven't run someone through with my sword, well, at least in reality. In my mind, I've done it thousands and thousands and thousands of times in preparation for what I was uncertain may be on the horizon. But even experiencing this in my mind does not make me evil. It doesn't make me violent. It doesn't make me a predator. It makes me prepared. If we look at the whole of history, it makes me prepared. I did not swallow the story I was being spoon-fed by individuals that once I grew and could look at them as peers rather than elders, I rejected almost everything they said. And so I have pacified myself, because I know that the one thing their system can do is restrict me if I express that side in society, which I am in favor of. The one thing it's not doing is realizing that this is the new paradigm. I don't need to wear a bikini top. I don't need to put makeup on. I could have quite easily like a very nice suit, but I haven't got one. And it's hot here. When you look at me dressed like this, you see a woman. I see something I'm striving to get to, which has a deep personal connection with my body and my journey in this body from birth till now. I understand that certain things I'm doing are to get autonomy over my body again, to be able to use my body as I remember using it. Whether it's from stress, whether it's from injury, whether it's from abuse, whether it's from sitting in a car for sometimes 12 hours a day in a stress situation right after this. I don't know what exactly pushed my body to be so badly affected. But what I do know is I do know what is right for it. And strangely, when it started happening, it was so strange I couldn't even believe it. I was like, that's a woman. This is this female thing. And my thought is perhaps like maybe at the end of this, I'm going to hit a certain point. I'm going to get autonomy over my body again. I'm going to be able to move the way that I remember moving. And to give you, this isn't a small thing. Tie your hand behind your back and try and tie your shoes. And this is how I've felt for the last 10 years. I kind of slid down into a ditch of that, hit the bottom of the most extreme. And then the things I've done in order to dig my way out of that trench again, mostly in the dark, mostly by myself, mostly with nothing but my deepest, darkest nightmares and torments to keep me company. Because although we talk a lot of things about disability, we talk a lot of things about understanding, we really, as humans, we're not very good at being empathetic to other people over a long period of time. It just doesn't work. And that's not something I want to change. I don't want to make the world empathetic to my situation. I want to make people more resilient to being on their own and to being in a fight that no one will care about and that no one will fucking help with. I want this illusion that these systems are all giving, all helping, all there for every single ailment and condition that may arise. They are not. In our society, we are spoilt for food, we are spoilt for resources, we are spoilt for warmth, for shelter, for everything that we have fought for millions of years to provide for ourselves. We are spoilt in every regard, yet we argue over digits on a screen. This is the epitome of insanity. We have reached mass insanity. And if you understand our political and our history of our democratic system, this will become very clear to you. Australia is the largest continent, not the largest, but it is a gigantic island. It is a gigantic continent. We have technologies that can change environments, and we have technologies that can shield us against those hostile environments. So much so that we have this dream of going to space. Yet we all huddle around in these poorly built, poorly managed, poorly protected systems under the stewardship of individuals that have walled themselves in and are failing to respond. They are using the strategy of a castle. They believe they're in a castle, but we don't need ladders and pitchforks to get in those castles. We have this. And so even that, our strategy is pacified. I may allude to terrorist acts because I believe I'm having terrorist acts instituted upon me. I may allude to terrifying things to paint an image of how I'm feeling about what you're doing to the place I grew up in. But I promise you at the end of this, even as foolish as you may think I look, even as how easily laughed at and rejected my argument you may think it is, I guarantee you it's the opposite way around. Humanity does not kind of disregard extremely rare phenomenon ever. And that is what I am. I'm one of the rarest fucking animals on this fucking planet right now. And all the people that understand humanity, that actually pull the levers of this little rock that we call home, understand that. I have adapted to the new paradigm and I am trying to show you how to do it. Of course, I'm going to be strange. Anyone who does anything that fucking out of the ordinary is going to be strange. But I cannot also be strange. This isn't a condition. I don't have to dribble and fucking lick the windows. I don't have to, I don't have trouble controlling my actions in a crowd or in public. I don't particularly like crowds, and I don't particularly like the environments that you have all built. So I feel terribly uncomfortable in them. But you would feel the same if I took you to an environment that I do feel comfortable in. You expect me to match your society at every level. You expect me to drive at the numbers posted, which even think of that, think of the abstraction of that. You post numbers on a piece of metal that adjudicate to some agreed upon measurement and that some agreed upon time unit on that measurement, and you police that. You are policing time. Well, I want to flip that on its head. I want to say, okay, well, you put numbers up on posts, you flash us with your radar guns and you take money off us. I'm going to do the same. Your entire system is going too fast. Your entire system is basically doing a burnout out the front of my home, the home of my children, the home of my grandparents, the home of my great-grandparents. You are burning rubber, shooting your guns in the air, putting your sirens on constantly, and terrorizing the people of my homeland, whether they're Aboriginal or whether they're pioneer, whether they're convicts or whether they've just arrived here. You are terrorizing the people of my homeland. And in response, I completely deny any type of claim you have to leadership. You've attempted to steal my identity. You've attempted to steal my children. You've attempted to steal my land. You've attempted to twist every single person in my life against me. To buy fuel to stick in your race car. It's no mistake that our Premier is trying to build a racetrack, that he's sitting in a car revving it. He's trapped in a conception of reality that he grew up in, and he's expressing his masculine power upon the individuals that still believe he is in charge. I actually feel bad for him because I understand it. I understand what he's doing. He's failed to grasp time as a unit. And it's upsetting. It's sad. It's sad for everyone. It's sad for him because he's not aware of it, and it's going to be embarrassing. It's sad for all of us because we allowed that to happen. It's sad for Australia because it's revealing approximately and more than likely 40 years of backwards trajectory, and no one likes to go backwards. There is one class of profession in our history that can weather this reality better than anyone, and that is sea captains in sailboats. Because this was the reality of that environment. This was the reality of the environment that brought my ancestors to this land. We did not try and conquer our environment. The people we brought did. But we did not. I don't look back at every single section and every single portion of my homeland, of my heritage, of my people, of my religion, of anything with praise. Because there are countless members of that group that have done horrific things or have done poorly thought out things. Even within the naval concept that I do hold up quite high, there are some things that aren't great, but it was done in protection of the whole, which is something that most people nowadays would find it very difficult to ever actually understand because they are so provided for. They are so provided for that the idea of having to consider millions of people in your actions is so foreign. And even more foreign is the concept that somebody that they know would be doing that. It is so foreign and strange that it will be attacked like an enemy, like a pathogen, like a virus, and that is what I've seen. And that's okay because I survived it. And if I survived it, it means it lives in you as well. And I can guarantee you that your journey will not be the same journey that I took. This applies in every single expeditions we've ever done. The people that line up and go and do Everest over a long weekend or whatever these things that are going on now, they are very far from the initial people that went and did this. And even the people from my culture that we hold up and claim as heroes for conquering that mountain, they themselves pale in comparison to the individuals that assisted them in getting up there. Our history is told through the lens of the culture that it comes from. And we have smashed all these cultures into one place. I want to hear about the glory of Muhammad. I don't want to see it in the suburbs of my hometown. I want to hear about the glory of the Muslim race, about the strength of your ideals. I'm in full support of certain concepts like the resistance to alcohol, like the family-orientated thing. I want to see this, but I want to see it in the same fashion that we have entertained you, that we have told you our stories, that you have criticized. I do not trust a man until he can make fun of himself, until he can lower himself to the level of a child. I can't even remember where I saw it now, but one of the most important things, and I make sure that I do it whenever I meet a child, especially if the child is a boy, I meet him at eye height. And the reason I do this is because that boy has more to teach me than he will ever know. And I have more to teach that boy than I will ever know. So we meet as equals in a moment in time. That doesn't mean I allow disrespect or allow ill behavior, or that I pander to every single one of their needs. This arrangement is millions of years old. This condition is millions of years old. Men have had a long time to work out these intricacies in society, because it has always been known that it is life or death. There's so much told and dramatized about the grand battles, whether it be Waterloo or whether it be the one in America, Custer's Last Stand, or the fight against the Zulu, or these grand battles in history between nation states or between religions. How many films, how many times have we been here before? The fact that it looks different is not different. Yeah, that's the same. If it looked the same, that would be different. It's always looked different. We have stood armies against each other for thousands of years, and this is what we are in right now. The problem is that I do not have a counterpart to speak to. You have abandoned the glory of your prophet in this deceptive, manipulative implantation that is unholy in no matter what religion you look at it, because it brings mistrust. You cannot have a religion such as Islam with mistrust of itself. The victory you are trying to claim will destroy Islam as soon as it wins, because you have brought too much mistrust. You've rattled your sabers, you've drummed your drums, and you have raised your flags, but your warriors are nowhere to be seen. They are installed in the systems that we use to provide care, and they are bringing mistrust to humanity, which even if you wiped every Christian, every Jew, every native, every atheist, every homosexual off the planet tomorrow, you would begin to devour your own people with those seeds of mistrust that you have sown across the world. Everyone knows the feeling when you're around someone and they start talking badly about someone else, especially if that person is your friend. Now, we've all been there, we've all done it, but there's a certain level where it sparks something in your head and you start going, oh, okay, this is just how this person works. They're an island unto themselves. And as long as they keep moving around the island, they will never be caught. Or so they think. But they will always be caught. The reason I continue doing this every day is because I know that probably 80% of the Australian population could wake up tomorrow morning and do the same thing, and we would be at peace. We then have to make a decision with what we do with the people that have sought to consciously and knowingly try and destroy us from within. The vast majority of people assisting in this terrorist infiltration are unaware. They're following protocol. But if we break protocol en masse in one day of solidarity and show that we are now not just continuing on, we're not just piling coal into the burner and going and building track to nowhere. That's probably a pretty good metaphor to use. Imagine that we're all on a train. We are piling coal into it and we are building track. The problem I have is I now have no idea where that track is going. The story is falling down. I jumped off that train a long time ago, and from where I am, I look around. At any point I have everything I need, and I can quite easily start building something that will weather the storm of your imminent collapse. But I don't think it needs to do that. I think it can slow down. I think it can refocus its energy onto itself rather than onto the convenient scapegoats, which is basically anyone that's speaking against it. That worked when it was a man in a castle, with a small area, and he knew that there was another man in a castle not too far away. And then everyone in between those two men kind of organised themselves, and there was an inevitable line. Now, the way that also worked is that the people on that line were the least powerful people. So no one would notice if a few of them jumped over one side or the other, and they would probably be friends. This was how territories were laid out. Trying to claim territory in the way that these global powers are trying to claim territory is going to fail so extraordinarily that it will boggle your mind. I'm trying to stop that failure. I'm trying to send the clearest of messages to those individuals that they need to surrender. They need to retreat. And just like the people in the castle and the way that was laid out, they will be able to. And there will be a place in their society. They can use their resources they've gained from this to live out the rest of their lives probably in wonderful comfort, and probably etch out still some type of powerful positions. But to claim the full territory is not going to work. The way that I've mapped out my story is purposefully at every point to show a few things. It's to show the power of loyalty. My capacity in Western Australia at the moment is as a servant to King Charles III in whatever capacity he agrees that I am in. I do not claim myself anything within that. I just do my duty to the highest level that I can do in whatever strategy, whatever capacity I have figured out needs to be done. Of course, it's going to look very strange. It's going to be completely different. I'm sure the people that took place in battles like Waterloo, where gigantic wooden behemoths filled with giant metal cannons shooting giant flaming balls and shrapnel at each other in utter chaos, that we've seen this displayed on the silver screen in wonderful movies. I'm sure those individuals were just in awe when they compared this to, say, I don't know, a battle in a field with swords. That tenfold when we look at World War I or when we look at World War II. Our technology for hundreds of years has outpaced our ability to wield it, I think is a good way to say it. The people overseeing, say, the kingdoms that I am loyal to, their largest consideration is to walk their own misdeeds, their own miscalculations, that they did because of their removal of their powers by Parliament in an ever-escalating war to the futuristic utopian republic that I myself know as a failure, and we can see this in America right now. It is wonderful to see an individual trying to claim that back and not even claiming himself king. That humility is to be celebrated. That is the dream of America, and I'm not going to get in the way of it. I just personally wish that Donald Trump would declare himself king sometime soon so that we could bring back some order. That doesn't mean that I appreciate or that I support Donald Trump and everything he does. It doesn't mean anything like that. It means that will bring stability. A monarchy is a far different system to a democracy. And when a democracy uses the strategy of dumbing down its people in order to retain power, it will always eventuate to this level of juxtaposition when it finally brings its hobbling, damaged army to the front lines and looks over the field at a 1,000-year-old, well-oiled military machine. I hope my words are strong enough to draw a picture of that machine. Not a cold killing machine like we saw in World War I and II, but a symbolic display of absolute loyalty. Not to a king, although it is. The king is the focal point. He displays an individual of focus, and he is supposed to appear human, and Charles has done a better job in this than perhaps any king in the last 1,000 years has done. And William is there doing the same thing to back him up. They are supposed to be human. It is not the king in himself that is the power of the monarchy. It is the loyalty to the structure that is self-autonomous. It emerges all by itself. It will emerge anyway. It's emerging in Africa. It's no mistake that there's an African gang of say bikies which have I love how that's never, they haven't, what's the word, commandeered our cultural thing. Bikies are a manifestation of English, Scottish culture, and Norwegian. That's a white thing. Cultural appropriation. Okay, great. Great. They're called the African kings. I'm not really concerned with them because they're never going to get anywhere in this country. I probably don't condone with a lot of their behaviour, but I don't condone a lot of the behaviour of their white counterparts either. But I do protect their ability to exist. When you make a certain manifestation of culture illegal, by not allowing them to gather, not allowing them to be loyal to their patches, all these things, you have made them extreme. You've made their behaviour have to go underground, and you've made their behaviour become more and more vicious and more criminal. These were people that served, their families of servicemen that rightfully so rejected the system that killed their ancestors, that sent them into like Gallipoli. Now, I support Winston Churchill. I love Winston Churchill, but he killed a lot of Australian people with a mistake of scale, but perhaps one that he had to make. But these individuals, they weren't criminals by our own decree. They were criminals by the decree of a so-called war on drugs. But we've got more drugs than we've ever had. A couple of people on Harleys selling dope, which is all they were selling. They were selling weed, marijuana. And now we have drugs in our schools, chemically castrating our children. The same drugs that were used on what should be classed as an international hero and a British hero, Alan Turing, who stopped the fascist Nazis from invading Britain with a computer. And this is what I'm speaking to you on now. And because he was gay, a couple of nosy police officers entrapped him in the ideology of the time and forced him to be chemically castrated, which led to his suicide. I am never not in touch with the irony of God or the irony of the universe or the irony of synchronicity. Because I am participating in telling this story, I'm a scribe, not a writer. I'm not writing my story, I'm writing our story. And because all of you have failed to write anything sufficient to oppose it, this is the story. If I could subtract myself from this story and still have it do what it needs to do, I would do it in a heartbeat. But I'm given the tools that I have. I'm given my body, I'm given my voice, I'm given my creativity, I'm given my observation. Our entire system from top to bottom relies on stories, not on laws. Laws are a story. My assumption was that the story of a father speaking and rising up and stepping up to take responsibility against a tyrannical government, very far removed from the foundation of the governments in this country, using a new technology, using it quite civilly, and at the most extreme of that, using a photograph of his family the exact image that has kept kingdoms, empires, everything alive for thousands of years, was used as an attempt to imprison me. The story I was telling is always trying to be finished. Every day I wake up and I say, how can I finish this story? I put it out into the world and the world responds. And every single time it has in the last 3 years, I have been absolutely amazed with what I see come back. Like any detective, I question, I poke and I prod, and I try and get to the core problem that's going on. I don't have a script. I have the same tools that you have. I'm not trying to criminalize or make a fool of any particular individual within anything I'm doing. I'm trying to get to the bottom of what exactly is going on. And you will see this if it wasn't so long. It is incredibly long, but I don't have the benefit of being able to go back and edit it because I don't know where it's going to finish yet. And it's this length and complexity of the story that is being used to keep it in the dark. And there's only one conclusion I can get to from that. It means that people are operating on the fly, reactionarily, to destroy me, which to destroy me means death. It means attempted murder. There is no other solution. 18 years ago, actually 19 years ago, almost, I was given the news that I was going to be a father. I'd already been given this news. Myself and that individual had already previously decided that that wasn't what we were to do. And in between the first time we got that news and made that decision and the second time we got the news and decided to do it, we had both lost someone very close to us. She had lost her father and I had lost my brother in pretty horrific ways. It wasn't a subtle message that I got that my role was to be a father. You lose the person that you've basically been attached to for 18 years in a horrific accident. Knowing some of the facts, like you drove past the very road that they died on after leaving a drug-filled party, knowing that you were on the wrong track, that the people around you were on the wrong track, that the world, in fact, was on the wrong track. You drive past a street that you don't know that your brother has died on minutes, hours, whatever before. You get an urge to pull over and you throw your guts up. You turn back at your car and you see someone in the car. Only for that all to be confirmed the next morning, hungover, expecting that the news was of your grandfather's death because you had been at his 90th birthday party the day before. Your life changes in an instant. The second time I was given the information that I was potentially going to be a father, I knew more about the world then than a lot of 40-year-olds do now. It wasn't anything to do with love. It wasn't that I was uncontrollably in love with my children's mother. In fact, I have a diary that I was keeping randomly at the time of my brother's death, before and after, for some reason. Very much like this is my diary. Another aspect of my story that I cannot ignore, or nor will I put it in the pile of random coincidence. A story I wake up to every morning has always been like this. I am exceptionally envious of people that just have fun, or just, live. I've never been in that condition. Not because I have some type of title or some type of responsibility. I was exactly the same as all of you. Except for what I was born into and what was happening to me. It got so uncomfortable that I needed to isolate myself. I didn't want to be envious of people that were having fortunate lives. And I also knew that my life was fortunate. It was just hard. It just had a lot of tests. I was constantly being tested. And still am. If I look back and I think about myself as a 20-year-old, and the confidence I felt of being able to be a father at 20, sometimes interacting with people twice my age who had children the same age, at the level of equals. I did this in my job. When I was 22 years old, I had 3 individuals that were in their 40s that worked underneath me, because I could only operate in that place. I've never been able to just do 8 hours of work. That's not how I've ever worked. And I've watched my entire industry turn into that and suffer because of it. The utopian Labour ideal made sense when it started, but it does not make sense now, because you do not know where to go. I have not been paid for anything I have done in service to this country and in service to the United Kingdom. I do expect at some point to be rewarded for my work. Whether that goes to me or whether that goes to my children, because I don't survive to see it, is something that I wake up to every morning. And that millions and millions of men have done the same for millions and millions of years. I don't have a guarantee of anything. I would quite like to be able to, in person, living and breathing, explain my work to the world. Mainly because I believe if something did happen to me and my work is left, and this is this thing that just if I say something like that, people will perceive I'm trying to use suicide as a tool. It's nothing like that. It's like I've been there. I know the reality that I know the weight that my children will carry if something happens to me before I complete my job. instantly in that moment, everyone who has acted poorly against me will know the same. My ghost will continue on, and this is a very strange thing to know. In fact, if I could explain the feeling I have in my heart right now, which feels like my heart is crawling up to my throat and squeezing it. This is a feeling I've become quite comfortable with, although I'm sure if most of you were feeling it, you would be laying in a hospital bed in an hour. I don't believe it's a heart attack. I believe it is love. Real love. That is real love. Feeling that and continuing on is real love. Everything else that is wheeled out and spoken of as love is desire. When a mother is pushing to give birth to a child in agony, free from the new conditions where there's drugs and surgeries and all these types of things, for millions of years women have done this, knowing probably in their own families people that had died in doing this exact act. That's love. Caring for the child, doing whatever it takes to provide for that child what it needs, not what it wants. That's love. If we don't experience suffering, which can be wonderfully and very safely provided to everyone, if we don't experience that suffering as part of our development, as part of our elevation to adulthood, if you don't want to have children, that's okay. As long as you support children, the idea of children. I think there's certain places where the Christian church has gone wrong, all religions go wrong. You listen to this, you'll hear, okay, Shannon, so you've basically just described that you show love through suffering. And you may go, oh, you think that because you're doing this, you're going to be sent to some type of paradise and you're going to be rewarded after your death. And I would say, well, I'd hope that, but I don't know that. Nobody knows that. And then I would say, from my suffering here and now, doing things that nobody wants to do, doing things that I don't want to do, putting it above any other desire, which is all I see, that is all that there is. We in this country are not starving. We are not freezing. We are not having bombs dropped on us. So we cannot talk about anyone that is. It doesn't mean we ignore them. If you will not experience real suffering to try and save your people, your family, your place, and you are wheeling out arguments of other people's suffering, then you are glorifying those who are enacting that suffering onto them. You are worshipping the suffering of others rather than worshipping the suffering in yourself. And this brings us back to the imitation of Jesus, which is what the Augustines were doing, which is what the sect of the Catholic religion that our current Pope comes from, the first ever. Francis being the first ever Jesuit. There's all types of things being said that have been assumed about Jesus' suffering. The one thing I know about Jesus in the story that we're told is that he was not a father. The story of Jesus is the story of a son. It is the kindergarten story for mankind. It is the picture book for mankind. It was never intended to be an instruction manual for the world. Because if every man suffered suicidally to repair the world against its ills it had brought upon his mother, that is the Christian story. If Jesus had an older brother, not saying he did, the story may be very different. The story of Jesus is now 2,000 years old. And just like my story, it has been added to without his input. I can only assume, because there is so much about it, that he was in fact the Son of God. The Son of God wouldn't leave a story completed on his death. He would leave the seeds of a story, knowing that eventually we'd realize that we're in his play, his performance, in his story. And the moment you have children as a man, as a father, if you resonate with this as a woman, that's fine as well. The Christian story changes, I believe. If you find yourself in the condition I'm in, where you were the odd one, you had children young, you did the natural thing. in an unnatural world. You add on to it, you lose your father. Your father was an elderly man, far disconnected from culture already. I'm 2 generations into being disconnected from your artificial culture. I found courage and strength to persevere through your persecution of your artificial culture onto me through Jesus. And I found him to both be the most inspiring figure and the largest wall I had to climb. Not to surpass him, because once I got to the top of the wall, I found him again. And I continue to find him again. The more I delve in to what his words have done to the world. We're not children in a sandpit with action figures. Yet this is what so many of the priests, whatever the Muslim version of a priest is, I actually apologize that I don't know, rabbis, pastors, gurus, we cannot break humanity down to that. That perspective is best seen by a father. Because a father knows if he sees his boy playing with another boy in a sandpit with action figures, he's been all things in that frame. And so his only salvation is God. God is the only place he can look to. Sorry, I ran out of storage. God is the only place he can look to for guidance. If he looks to another father, he'll realize he's just a fractal of this image. He is the father. If he goes to another father, then they're just... Alrighty. Technical difficulties. If he looks to the father standing next to him of the other boy, he's a fractal of the image in the sandpit. He's been the father, he can recognize the other father, and then he's trapped in the loop. If he looks at the children, he knows he's been there, he's been a child, he's been in that situation. If he looks at the action figures, he knows the relationship that his son has to the action figures. He knows that they are a manifestation of their desire to be confident, to be powerful. And so he turns God into his own action figure. Now, I believe that this dynamic changes radically if that father has indeed lost his own father, and if he was in a good state, not an estranged father. Jesus is the story of an estranged father. An important story because lots of individuals, lots of men, see, men were the ones that were going to be warriors, and the women at that time were kind of subservient to men. So any type of religion only really needed to concern itself with a story that would convince men to live and die in loyalty to that system. Not essentially a bad thing, a necessary aspect of civilization. The more that we can look at our history with understanding and pride rather than trying to undo it, this is something that my father taught me. I had the benefit of a father that was a lot older, a lot more experienced. So when he transitioned to that space, I had, if anything, just a slightly taller ladder in order to actually conceptualize a figure of God, not as an action figure, but as some kind of all-knowing or all-seeing entity. Sometimes he can appear as a human. A lot of times he appears as my father. Sometimes my father appears to me as my father. Sometimes my father appears to me as my father as a child. But all of these are manifestations of what I would call God. Any type of figures from Norse mythology or even from our own fiction or science fiction can be incorporated into this as kind of characters in communion, or not communion is the wrong word, in participation with God's plan. Even some of the Gnostic traditions have assisted me. I shouldn't say even, because they haven't just assisted me, they've been quite paramount in my conception of the world. That I would never wish anyone to repeat or to embrace. As I said a slightly higher ladder to step up onto. But that elevation only brought me attack. Even if most of that attack was just ostracism. But that ostracism was the next rung of the ladder in God's plan. All I'm ever trying to do by speaking of anything is point you to the first rung of a ladder that you will climb yourself, that you will create yourself. If all religions around the world, all structures, are viewed with perhaps as perhaps a flawed system to do the same, then you'll realize how stupid it is to be arguing about the color of the ladder. To hold up a rainbow flag and kind of stake your claim on the religious world by claiming a kind of atheist, free-loving, open society, my argument is it's like, okay, yeah, God sent a rainbow. If you want to look at scientifically, a rainbow is up in, it's actually weirdly, I don't even think in the sky. I think it's in our eyes. It's like a prism effect to do with perhaps water or something that's far closer to us than the rainbow appears. It's like a lens. I could be wrong about that. It's reflecting off the atmosphere or something, which again is part of God's creation, which is all part of these things. The things that have helped me to do what I do, I can't explain to you within the laws of physics or the laws of time or the laws of anything. the highest level that I probably, if I was forced to try and describe some type of theory in order to describe how I am doing what I'm doing, or how anything, it is some type of multiverse paradigm. And then that my interaction with you on that level actually makes more confusion and makes it very strange to me. Because it means that I'm navigating through realities and I'm leaving breadcrumbs as I go. And you can either take my word for that or you cannot. But I wake up every day and I seem to be a little bit closer, and the world seems to be a little bit different, and occasionally there are things that happen that make me know that for certain. And so this is my log, which I can only assume will eventually be the log of my journey, which will be known by the people wherever I am, because I will have eventuated at that place where the journey I'm on becomes the story of a journey, even with the conception of the journey being part of that universe. And this is where I'm continuously getting closer to. But the strange thing for me is that I will never know, whether that is where I started from. If you think of a young person, a 10-year-old, the people around them, the interactions they have, they know almost nothing about anyone around them. Even my father, who I talk about all the time, he had me when he was 55, I was born, or 56. I'm 38 now and I've done this. That's 20 years in my future. That is how old my father was when I was born. I knew nothing of that man. His entire history is malleable in my mind and in my story. But the strange thing is, I will never know. My thought is, like, anyone who kind of is ignoring me or wishing me harm, they kind of will grab on. They have a story of me. And in their story of me, I'm a failure, I'm crazy, I'm disruptive, I'm a lunatic. This is the entire industry of psychiatry. It revolves around this. But I can guarantee you, based on my story, on my experiences and my observations within the way this, even if I say this world, within the way our consciousness works, that is potentially the most disruptive behavior on earth. I believe there should be penalties equivalent to assault for ever claiming that anyone is anything less than perfectly satisfactory. The words we use on others are so powerful. But all the framework of these new laws are condemning people that are daring to speak about anything. Describing an entire group of people or a nationality, even if it's horrific, even if it is inciting violence, as you may say, or being critical or racist, any of these things, is far less of an obstruction of individuals thriving in this world than individually telling someone they are specifically flawed, especially from a position of power. If you're a teacher, a doctor, a lawyer, a politician, and your narrative involves the concept or the technique or the strategy of these labels and these things. And this is violent. These are violent people. These people are mentally disturbed. These people are dumb. I'm not perfect. I've done all of these. But I'm not in a position of authority unless I am. And if I am, then I should be notified of such. People are claiming authority by condemning others rather than by proving their own worth. And we've gotten so used to this being just the norm, the status quo, that we can't see it for what it is. Every political debate I see every time I turn it on, it's this person's bad, this person's bad. I'm doing the same thing. They're doing it because it works, but it only works in the paradigm of its continuation. My story and my desire, it's so utterly simple. I wish to acquire with resources I hold in my family estate a large portion of land in a sufficient place and to build an estate, a house, with my own hands, with my own skills, with the resources from that property, and I wish to repair the damage done to that property by industrial agriculture. And I wish to have a firm stake in a protected way for my family into the future in Australia. And I am being prevented from doing that, in my opinion. It is the most basic thing that we are doing. The reason I'm being prevented from that is because you have been ushered into a digital casino-style pokey machine reality in the urban environments and in the suburban environments. Powered by our technology, powered by these devices, powered by the perception of scale and by the control, back-end controls that our government wields. This is all held up by an interconnected balance between global powers and tech companies and all these different things. But if it is preventing me from doing this, and if I feel like it has brought my life in danger, then we're in a really, really difficult position. My opponents have not adapted their strategy to the new paradigm and considered that they may not be superior at the end. Like I said, I don't know the end of my story. They are acting as if they do. My confidence comes from the fact that I believe that my story will be maintained even if I die. That's it. And with enough time, the truth will be kind of winnowed out of it. And with the tools that we have now, you can probably do that in 10 minutes. I'm surprised the songs I've done this morning, when I put them through the voice translator, it got them pretty right. And I don't exactly sing very clearly. I don't know how many pages I've written. I don't know how big my book is. I haven't edited it. It's probably the first thing I'll do once I feel like I can actively expose my family estate to the risk of the market and firmly stake my family's legacy on this soil in Western Australia. And I do not have that at my hands at the moment. Your constant attack on the regional areas will continue. Your constant use of encirclement and terrorism will continue, and you will send people out to destroy whatever it is I build out there. I have no confidence in your government. I look around, I see the towns that were established here in utter disrepair, absolutely stalled out for over 100 years. I see the markings of old high watermarks of rivers that haven't reached anywhere near that in 50, 60, 70 years. We are in a state of disrepair, of disorder, and of destruction. And the majority of this is not caused by any company that has a sign up on a building in town, in the city. It's caused by the cumulative technological fervour that wrought destruction all across the world and did it in a timely manner here, that did it so quickly. And we are not even at a position where we can do the very basic of what formed every single aspect of our culture and allowed this kind of pinnacle position of a democratic parliament to be installed years later. We are kind of in the dark ages with phones connected to, say, the United Kingdom, which is kind of a mixture, and then we have barbarians at our gates and in our systems trying to install. There is so much disorder being explained as order and of control. So many of the projects that we're kind of wheeled out as these wonderful things, they're nothing. They bring nothing. There's not even an individual behind them. No one's building estates. No one's building anything long term. We are in the suicidal fantasy of childless individuals across the world who are concentrating their influence through stock markets and through financial systems and through media. And we need to grow up. And the way we need to do that is we need to experience suffering. We need to install it into our systems. Four hours of suffering, which you will get if you walk, do something, like get out of your comfort zone, feel the thing, imagine, trigger those instinctual reactions to look for water and look for food. All these things. Without it, we're nothing. Anyway, this is long. I should probably note at the end here that I did have I don't even know what the pill is. It's like a little blue ADD pill. It makes me feel quite wonderful, if I'm honest. Like, I feel like I could do lots of things. I'm not solely against everything. I would be incredibly cautious because that wonderful feeling could lead me to all types of things that aren't great. But there is a nice, content feeling. But the last time I had one was when I was in Tasmania, so that's like 6 weeks or something like that. I'd pay $200 probably, if I had normal money and I was in a normal working condition, to have one of these pills. For me, it's not about supply, it's about enjoying the experience. It feels good, it feels wonderful, but I know it's artificial. I could go on a protocol of these and feel great and deal with society and block out probably the things that I see daily, that if I calculate out the repercussions, I will be stalled out again and in defense to stop that progression. That is all that has happened. The attack on individuals and in the form of mental health, ADD, all these things, it's an attack on a human civilization protective structure where certain individuals that have the capacity will see the on-flow effects of our actions and will try and stop them. And most of the problems that we are now arguing about and we have all around us would not be here if we had have listened to those individuals, but they've been called all different types of things. I'm very much aware of how privileged even this level of acceptance is. Now, I'm not being tortured, I'm not being imprisoned, I'm not being anything. So I understand it. I just feel like we need to reopen those creative expressions and stop trying to explain everything down to the nth degree. So much can, if think of a play can be anything. A play, that's what we call, I'm going to go see a play. That could be anything. It could be a musical, it could be a fucking horror, it could be a thriller. It could have murder in it, it could have dancing in it, it's basically everything that humans do, and we call it a play. Well, that's what this is. It's a play. If you're watching it, you're watching a play. If your children are doing things that you think are confusing, refer to it as a play and sit down and watch and try and figure out what they're trying to tell you. Anyway, my voice didn't last long, did it? My voice didn't last long. I didn't stay talking as a woman. As I'm looking at the monitor, which is what this used to be called, on the thing, and I see a woman, or I see a pretty man. I like the way I feel when I feel like this. There is part of me, because I'm kind of like I'm a binge. The reason I don't drink is because I will binge drink. The reason I don't do drugs is because I will binge do drugs. The reason I don't have promiscuous kind of sexual things anymore is because I will binge sex. And I assume it would be the same with this gender thing. And so I steer it very slowly, like a sailboat, not like a speedboat, because I might change my mind. That's why I don't have tattoo. I've got one tattoo, or two, but one tattoo, and I don't hate it. I like it. But as I've said this before as well, that one tattoo, I feel like it branded me with a very difficult story, because it's countless times has come up. Maybe that's just my creative brain. Any type of surgeries and things like that, I feel like it would be the same. So it's and there's so much you can do with clothing, with makeup, with hair, And yeah, I would not be surprised if in a year I have a beard down to here. And yeah, I don't know. But maybe not. I think I reject that nowadays because I embraced it when I was young, because I was, as I said, I was a young man trying to raise children with most of them being old men. Now I'm kind of in the position they were in, and I'm trying to present a more gentle thing, more diverse, more accepting. Instantly, by me displaying this, I'm more accepting of everything, because we're going to see this. We're going to see trans fathers in their 20s somewhere. There's been that much media. I'm not saying that I'm trans, but they will say that they're trans because they've had that much thing around them. And you've got to kind of give them the benefit. They might do some things better. If I look back now at hindsight and I go, well, if I could have embraced this and felt comfortable with this as a young man, would have I avoided a lot of things? And I'm like, probably, yeah. Probably. All I really wanted to do was just hang around girls and study and learn, perhaps play sport and surf and do and explore. Most of the things I want to do don't cost money, and they don't really need fancy things to do them. And so I feel this very strongly. I feel all the restrictions imposed upon me by a culture that is demanding more and more and more. Everyone has to have a big, I know I had a big boat and fucking things, but that was a work project. That was something to spend my time on. That was a conscious thing. I was like, well, this gives me something to do. I can live off not a lot, and I can just do that. And at the end of the day, I have a boat. I knew the funny thing was that I get seasick, so I might have hated it. And it was attacked at every point. So the next thing is a house somewhere far away, somewhere, and I won't tell anyone really about it. I'm just going to do it, but I'm not doing it somewhere where I don't feel secure financially, with stability. It's the basis of everything. The entire digital economy, I don't have faith in at all. Whether it's Bitcoin or whether it's Combank, none of it. I will only deal in physical. I will only deal in that environment. I will only deal in an environment where if somebody puts in 20 hours worth of audiovisual content that's well thought out, well researched, and addressed to the right people, whether it gets a response. I'm not going to line up and try and appease your constituency of people that I believe now are alien to the example set by my ancestors in this country. You're in a technocratical cult trying to stop someone building their own house in a country that has so much vacant land that it's not even funny. We're going to at some point have to meet on equal terms. Even now, the funny thing is, say I had a conversation with Roger Cook, it'd be quite hilarious, because he might be like, one, he's going to go, what's he going to rock up like? I probably wouldn't rock up like this. Although we could both rock up like this, that would be quite entertaining. Yeah, we can't have that conversation because I'm probably 4 foot taller than him. I can speak a lot better than him, and I have a lot to do. We cannot have it. So we need a transition strategy. And yeah. Anyway, that'll do. Diary entry for the day. Now I'm going to go sit in the sun. Goodbye. Noticing a lot of stories or posts from the left brigade, and they're constantly saying there's this argument, oh, the oil and gas companies are taking our gas, our oil, and not paying royalties. But they're trying to shut them down and then claiming that they're not paying royalties for our. What do you mean our? O-U-R. What do you mean by our? The security system, it's like, from my perception, the largest security risk in this country right now is coming from citizens of the country that are trying to establish a communist state in our country. You claim Woodside is extracting these things and not paying royalties, when more than likely you and your family are extracting countless amounts of wealth, countless amounts of resources. You're taking all the air out of an argument as simple as, hey, why can't I build a stone wall on my family property? This isn't a nationalist argument. You can't jump around. You are attacking the nationalist argument by trying to establish communism or socialism. You've left somewhere, landed here in our support system, and are immediately trying to colonize our oil and gas to distribute to your communist system by calling it polluting. You can't have both those arguments in one thing. You can't say it's polluting and that it's evil and that we need to have solar panels and then whinge at the companies for not paying royalties. I would feel so much safer and secure with either a large gas tank filled with gas or a large petrol container filled with petrol than I would with solar panels. I don't need electricity. The only thing I need electricity for is to talk to all the communists. The solution's really easy. Build a city for yourselves and declare it communist. That's it. Build a big dome out of solar panels and have a John Butler concert underneath it. The reason that money goes to Texas is because if you all try and fuck with us and build a communist state and you step over a line, the United States will send its aircraft carrier here to stop you. the families that have been here for a long time bought this insurance policy with gas that provided the infrastructure of the world that allowed for you to get to this point where you're trying to use your words to destroy it and to sell solar panels. There are tons of technological advancements. I have about 4 of them that I would like funding and all these things from the government. But it falls outside of this climate change narrative. It is so clear to see that you are just clutching at straws. It's the rock art, it's the emissions, it's the royalties, it's envy of some description. Move the rocks. Put them somewhere, protect them. That's how you do this. Understand the dynamics of energy. If you're up there trying to stop an oil or gas, whatever, company from doing its job, you'd better understand all the things going on there. Do you know how much energy you would save by trying to establish different technological shifts in society? Oil and gas is like gold. You can store it. It's worth money. It will be worth more money into the future. Solar panels are trash. They are rubbish. They are litter. Go and do the maths. How much does Western Australia, this urban sprawl, how much of its electrical output is used on air conditioning and on heating water for houses, for showers like I have behind me? Something you can socialise would be hot water. And even now, there isn't some large conglomerate of hot water companies in Australia. It's going to disrupt them. You're going to piss them off. But they have other products, usually. So you can do it. You could socialise the entire hot water supply of Western Australia, and you would save so much more energy than anything you're doing. But you won't do it. You could plant trees. You can change laws about the way that the houses are being built so that they're efficient. But none of you are doing this. We live in a giant sandpit. If you dig a trench and you stick a roof on it, that's a house. That's a row of apartments. You could drive a bulldozer through it. Through the sand, put a roof on it. You have a housing development. But you're not doing it. You don't understand the interactions, the industry, the interconnections. You're taking the air out of the room by establishing a party and doing these things and getting funding to basically sell solar panels and protest. It's annoying. The same as the guy that knocks on the door and tries to sell you solar panels, or the guy standing in the kiosk at the supermarket trying to sell solar panels. Socialize an aspect. Figure out how to do it. Maybe pitch Woodside to help you for their PR so that you leave them alone and let them take the gas out of the ground. Negotiate a facility where we can store gas, where we can store oil to use as leverage in defence so that we have time and stability to be able to come up with these strategies that are actually going to do things. The punk rock thing's great. But if you won't take advice from someone, you know, it's like, I'm not watching as our democratic system turns into hip protest. I commend you for what you're doing. You know, you've done it, but I know how you've done it. And I know what you're supporting because I can make assumptions based on what you're saying. I can see that you're funded. I can see all these things. And I know that you won't take the advice because that's not what you're trying to do. And you're getting in the way of someone that is actually trying to do it. And it's showing what this stratification has done. You've just put your foot in the door and you won't talk to someone who's at the same level as you, who's been doing this for probably longer than you, who has direct experience in all the things that you don't, because you're just selling solar panels and stopping oil. You're down to one metric. Oil will be stored because it's valuable. It's a store of value. So they're going to keep digging it up. The more unstable the world is, they're going to keep digging it up and people are going to want to store it and sit on it. If this climate thing is provoking war, it's provoking conflict, it's provoking situations where people are being silenced, you're provoking the conditions in which more oil and gas is going to be extracted, which is what you're trying to stop. You make the system efficient. Oh, what did you do? Oh, we bulldozed a big trench and then we put a roof on it. And then basically we made hundreds and hundreds of meters of beautiful, sustainable housing like that. We just mechanized it. Instead of mechanizing war, we mechanized housing. And we did it in harmony with the environment. And it was 1,000 times more efficient. 1,000 times more efficient to heat and cool, to build, to maintain. We reinvigorated the neglected townships scattered across the entire state. If I had 100 protesters from Fremantle that would inevitably try and protest me putting 6 truckloads of rocks at City Beach to make an artificial wave because of its environmental impact, despite the fact that waves break there all winter long, all summer long, and disturb the sand, the one time of me dumping inert fucking granite rocks there would be held up and described as the most environmental terrorist act you can ever imagine for something so frivolous as some waves. That's how you describe it. There are projects that are so large that would create such diverse, wonderful, environmentally friendly environments for native species and for humans, and would provide for all our needs, that have nothing to do with a mass industrialized manufactured product in a communist country. The consciousness we have to deal with in this democratic system is the consciousness that has been ushered through a mass-produced paradigm. We cannot fight a communist country as large as China that is our entire, supply chain with capitalism. But it is bureaucracy that you are just extending that stands in between solutions, because it would be the same. It'd be like, you can't bulldoze that big pile of dirt and build houses there. You can't make a lake. You can't plant non-native species. You can't graze cows. We need to shut off the invasion. The intrusive voices being piped in to this region by people that don't understand it, that are bringing their preconceptions from their regions to here. One of the largest things is English people. They're coming from London, from cities in England, assuming that they're landing in some type of holiday camp, which all the things can be provided. And everything is just the same. It's all sales, it's all story, it's all marketing. It's all real estate. But the developers coming from other places, they've only prospered in urban areas. So they're only bringing urban solutions to a suburban sprawl reality. Most of the problems I see in this urban sprawl region is that it has been overdeveloped and over the emotional connection that has been used to drive that boom with the properties creates the castle situation, like the movie The Castle, where everyone's like, it's their castle. Whereas most of the solutions I see, we need to take out 20% of these houses in environmentally stable and harmonious patterning onto that urban sprawl in order to live a life that isn't copy and paste. You can tell where we live when you learn how to look at it. You can tell that we have an elderly class of boomers that have been investing with their superannuation and their active investment and their property investment out of a catalogue that comes straight from America. They buy fast food franchises, they buy shopping centres, they buy liquor stores, they buy petrol stations, they buy housing developers, they buy medical. We live in what they invest in. We inherit what they invest in. And all that they're investing in is themselves. You selling your virtuosity in stopping a big bad miner or gas company while selling the utopian solar panel lifestyle is just perpetuating this. You say, oh, they're extracting our oil and gas without royalties. Well, once I feel stable in this place, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go and buy a farm and I'm going to stockpile gas and oil from them. I'm going to go and ask them how much it is and what's the quantity, what's the breakdown, how much do I need to buy to get a decent price, and then I'm going to buy it off them and I'm going to store it. I'm going to store it in order to prepare for the war against the communists that is inevitably going to come if you continue doing what you're doing. So where is the royalty? The royalty is in their efficient extraction and their willingness to supply said extracted oil or gas to someone who is willing to buy it. You can buy some. Anyone in Australia, I'd hope, can go and buy some of that gas, can go and buy some of that oil. And accepting that you get the right amount, the right quantity, and that you are seen to be able to responsibly store it. That's a pretty big royalty, isn't it? Compared to somewhere that didn't have that oil or didn't have that gas. But in your solution, you want royalties to be paid through a system, paid into a system that basically just tried to steal every single freedom that I would ever fight and die for, and to be distributed in the way that you are saying. The argument isn't about royalties, it's about how the royalties would be spent. I will negotiate my own royalties. And a good price on oil and gas from a local manufacturer or a local extractor, even if they are a foreign company, is a pretty good deal. I didn't have to build anything. I didn't have to build the extraction thing. I'm benefiting from their efficiency in their extraction. And like I said, the more you perpetuate a war based on climate ideology,
the more oil and gas will be extracted. If we slow the whole thing down and we stabilize the whole thing, the gas will stop being extracted because it won't be efficient. They won't be able to get the price for it. There is nothing stopping you from buying that gas, distributing it in barbecue containers, using the profit from that company to protect the artwork that you're claiming you want to protect. You claim to be Kate for Fremantle, but you're surrounded by people having barbecues with LPG. Cooking lamb chops from an industry that's also under attack by the same type of interference into our supply chains. If they can say that our farmers can't sell and they try and control the way that they distribute their product around the world, what are they going to do to us? I'm actually in favour of most of people like you. If you take the responsibility of creating your communities yourselves rather than implanting into ones that we built, go and build it. Then we can all watch and laugh as it disintegrates, as you all try and fuck each other and try and do drugs and inevitably drink a fucking poisoned cocktail of Kool-Aid. It's way harder than you think it is. That's why you're not doing it. That's why none of you are doing it. You're living off our system. I've gone through the whole process. I've thought about it all. Every single bit. Anything you would ever throw at me. I'm the biggest hippie on fucking planet Earth. And the only thing I've laid on is to absolutely support the monarchy, absolutely try and disintegrate this monstrous government that has flowed on from its entrapment. Our monarchy was entrapped within Magna Carta. All of them. Because once they did it to one, then they could do it to all of them. It was probably members of my family that actually instituted that order. And now what I'm bringing in return is a system of nobility to defend against it, the same as existed in the monarchies. I'm not playing your party game. When I call myself the Dark Greens, that is the army green. You've got the whole government system and anyone trying to participate in it will be combated by individuals like me. And the longer you wait to actually begin discussions, the worse you will look. So keep waiting. My distribution is there. The readership is low, but it's being finessed every day. It is emerging. I designed it to emerge. That's how I design things. That's how we should all be designing things. That's how nature designs things. I'm not your enemy. I'm not against you. I'm in favor of all the things you're trying to do, just not the way you're trying to do it. You have a voice in this state because you are an acceptable image and persona. And that's what we've gotten down to. But the acceptable version isn't cutting it. I opened up my phone this morning and I saw a picture of Amyl and the Sniffers, a band that I love, a culture that I love, a culture that I come from, as well as this other culture, this snobby toffee wank. And I looked at it, and I don't know who it is. I don't know if it's their drummer or their bass player or whatever, but he's sitting with his arms out on the couch. And I looked at that young man, covered in tattoos, in a rock band at the height of their careers. And do you know who I saw? I saw Anthony Albanese, the Prime Minister of Australia. And I started thinking how much better the world would be if Anthony Albanese was a rock star instead of a politician. Politics is boring, methodical, time-consuming. It is not a rock band. I've done both. The same as Paul Keating, apparently. He was the manager of a rock band. Anthony Albanese would be so much more beneficial to this country if we instantly assembled a rock band around him and freed him from his entrapment within our political system. So sometimes these issues are really complicated, they're really hostile, and I know you're sent whatever these things, but you wear a fucking shirt that says heavy metal on it. So disregard everything I said, don't mention anything. I know what politics is like, but talk about that, Kate from Fremantle, if you've gotten this far and listening to someone sitting on the toilet with a bikini top on, who's approximately, well, before you left on a plane, would have been approximately, 35 minutes away from you? Talk on that. Is there a core structural, societal malfunction going on in which our Prime Minister, the bumbling, nerdy, kind of everyman's fool, would he have been manifest differently if he had been pushed through the rock star archetype? I know myself in the opposite. That has been true. I started this journey trying to be a rock star. I ended up here by fate and probably some bad luck. But I'm better for it. I don't really think I would have been, maybe I would have been a good rock star. But if I had been thrust into fame as a young 20-year-old rock star, I'd be dead. Anyone who followed my example would be close to dead. I think. We'd probably have maybe a population boom. And we'd have a lot of fatherless children out there. And believe it or not, that's actually what I got told. I got told by a knowing. That's how I get told. Not by a voice, by a knowing. It's when I started, because I put all this song and dance business behind me for a long time. And then brought it back at a kind of older age. I was 28, 29, which isn't actually that old, but I felt very fucking old when I started doing it. And it was at the height of Justin Bieber's adult career. And I was I like Justin Bieber, he's a good singer, but I was like, nah. Like it's the first little crisis I had as a man. I was like, oh, I've betrayed my dreams and I've done this thing, and now there's this young guy doing this stuff, and so I'm better than him, I can do that. And now I hear the stories of his life, and it's like he lived out what I was protected from by circumstance. And so it's led me here, and I don't even want to call it political, but whatever I'm doing is far different than what I started doing. I think if anything, the feminine thing, that playing up and putting girls' clothes on and makeup on, it's like that's my like ground I won't surrender. I'm like, no, I started this as a fucking rock star. Yeah, and I never was successful. Unlike Peter Garrett, the rock world I tried to enter was gone. It didn't exist. So I'm a lost rock star who just kept going and found himself as a politician. And I think that's what the journey that I'd like to see Albo on. One of the first memories I have of him being Prime Minister was him addressing a rock crowd and being booed. I've seen him as a young man. I've seen pictures. I've seen the thing in his eyes. I haven't seen it in him for a long time, ever. I see him as a manifestation of what this country's socialist bullshit has done to the men of this country. It's turned our potential rock stars into bumbling corporate morons. And I want to break him out of that fucking cage. Yeah? I don't know how he floats. I don't know whether he likes guys or what likes girls or likes whatever. But I want to break him out of that fucking cage. I want to get him some contact lenses. I want to get him a few fucking drinks under his belt. I want to free him from the constraints of being a prime minister in a country that has become encircled by foreign investment and media nonsense. I want to take him off the tightrope of having to walk the line of political correctness and association with the dispossessed, the obvious thing that sparked him into his battle. But he cannot do it from there. I want to see the Labor Party put somebody in that position whose sole purpose is to be the spokesperson for Albo off the chain. I want him to swear. I want him to get drunk. I want to sit with Albo, someone who stands over very kind of aggressive union people, all these things, you know what I mean? But has to play that part. I want him freed from that. I want the Prime Minister just to be a spokesperson for Albo as just a normal citizen. I want to sit there and drink fucking 5 too many beers with Albo and almost get in a fist fight with him and then end up hugging each other and saying that I love you, mate. Because that's the country I live in. That's the country I know as Australia. This is the ultimate Bob Hawke, fuck you. The Labor Party for hundreds of years, or it's not hundreds of years, for tens of years, decades, has had to walk the line with all the slings and arrows of declaring communism, socialism, all these things, when all it is trying to do is to create an environment that is beneficial for the people who actually built the country. And that's me, love, unfortunately. This isn't necessarily just a video for you. This is a video for anyone who wishes to play the corporate game to sell out not just themselves, but the entire kind of rock indie music scene. And the way we're going to do it is we're going to turn Albo into a rock star. A real rock star. We're going to let him out. He's paid his dues. He's done a fucking amazing job. I have so much more in common with most Labor voters than I do with most Liberal voters. But I play Liberal. I play Liberal to keep the communists and the socialists out. I play Liberal because I understand what actually makes a country stable. But I drink with Labor. I drink and I swear, and I'm misogynistic, and I'm racist, and I'm greedy, impetuous, rebellious, and sometimes self-destructive. And I do that with the Labor Party. When Labor is directed, I mean actual Labor, not the political party. I mean actual people doing things. Labor, that's why it's called Labor. When Labor is directed in the right ways, for the right reasons, everybody wins. It is Liberal, the Liberal Party, that has given us the wrong directions. It is the Liberal Party that has activated this communist response from the Labor Party. And it is the feel-good, greedy individuals of the country that have kept the whole thing going. But it's time to step out of the pristine. Because that was Australia. That was Australia. The Australia I grew up in, no one was afraid to speak their mind. Even sometimes to the faces of the people they think, because it's not about hate. It's about understanding, and you never understand anyone as much as you do when you not attack them, but when you push them off balance a little bit and see where they resort to. I resort to the Crown because it holds us all together. And I resort to the Liberal Party because it declares the power of one man's self-determination. And I support the Labor Party because it supports the people that surrender their autonomy under the trusting example established under the monarchy. It defends individuals who lead the hardworking people of this country astray. Because when you hand in that self-autonomy, which is what all labour workers do, they're trusting. They're putting their trust in something. They're becoming a part of something bigger because they trust that something bigger. When they're let down by the direction of those above them, that's why I support Labor, because it happens all the time. And it happens in different ways. And in this way, it has happened by trying to literally create a prison. The convicts who came here, they did build their own prisons. And the prison for those who were to come, a lot of times this might have been 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and then they started their new lives with the skills that they had from building the prison. The prison wasn't anything like the prisons that there are now. I listened to a video last night about the treatment of prisoners in Van Diemen's Land that came over. Now, some of the whipping and things like that, I haven't had lashing. But I've definitely been punished as a prisoner. I haven't been paid. I've been ignored like a prisoner in solitary confinement. I got to experience a new type of solitary confinement that was just invented. The convicts knew they were building a prison. The Labor Party voters of this country did not. So yeah, I guess that's a pretty big goal, isn't it? I've got to turn Albo into a rock star. And I've got to turn myself into a gentleman. I think we can do it. I definitely think we can do it. If Labor's in charge, I want to see Julia Gillard as the Prime Minister. I want to tell Albo's story, and I want to see him put his trust in me the same way that he has expected us to put his trust in him. Well, the same way that any of you do is if you walk under one of the buildings I put glass in. That's the trust you put in Labor every day. The trust to direct your traffic around the things. If we're in a situation where there were horrific accidents going on all the time, it would be very easy. The mistakes have been made in the infrastructure of our societies, not in the buildings. The entire cumulative labour force of this country has done a wonderful job. The infrastructure is wonderful, the systems are wonderful, but it is filled with parasitic elements. And there is no way to start to combat those parasitic elements while our Prime Minister is entrapped in a political correct paradigm. Albo will be Prime Minister, but he won't. Julia Gillard will be Prime Minister. Because Albo has work to do that he can't do under the constraints you have put on him. To be the everyman, to be the guy who cries at Ayers Rock, to be these other things. We need old Albo back. And to do that, I need to drink 5 too many beers with him and put my forehead on his head with my arm around his shoulders. And I need to find the rock star that used to live in Albo.